I don't always jump at new movies being released, even if I want to see them. I guess I'm just not always that eager. I can't even remember why I didn't go see this movie. But I am pretty big on renting movies on digital. So I finally got around to this one and I'm finally going to talk about it. So The Pope's Exorcist is a supernatural horror film starring Russell Crowe, directed by Julius Avery. Based on the book An Exorcist Tells His Story, released in 1990, and An Exorcist More Stories, released in 1992, by Father Gabriele Amor. Now, right off the bat, this shining gem is clear and shining right in your face, and it's Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe's performance is just pure gold. He's absolutely hilarious and witty, but in the most subtle and casual way. He's literally the coolest father on the planet, riding around on his scooter in the streets of Italy. Plus, Russell Crowe's Italian and Spanish is really well spoken. As someone who speaks both of those languages, I was pretty impressed. Even his accent was convincing. A seriously solid performance on his end. And in this movie, you follow him as he goes to Spain to visit a woman named Julia, played by Alex Esso, which is a huge plus for me. Her teenage daughter, and her young son, who's possessed.
Padre nostro, che sei nei cieli, sia santificato il tuo nome, venga il tuo regno.
Your prayers are worthless here.
And from here on out, you get the gist of why Father Gabriele is there, and what he's gonna do. Now, in terms of an exorcism film, this movie plays out pretty much exactly how you expect it to. It follows the exorcism formula down to a T. Young boy is possessed and he's just sitting on his bed yelling slurs and being offensive while making weird faces. And the attacks, the prayers, and everything in between, it's just nothing we haven't already seen many times now. But what I do appreciate about this movie is that it does do a little more. Amongst the exorcism scenario itself, the movie explores some really dark secrets and history of the church, and some of the history of the Spanish Inquisition. Now, I was really intrigued by all of that. And even though they could have fleshed it out a little bit more, the fact that they even explored it at all was pretty sweet. Also, there's a little bit of backstory to Father Gabriele, of a tragedy that occurred that he feels pretty guilty about. Again, something that could have been fleshed out a little more and maybe even done a little better. But the movie still does try to offer some layers within the character, which of course is something I can appreciate. Now, this movie is nowhere near even being able to knock on Perfect's door. There's not a single thing in this movie is actually frightening. The possessed boy is actually more funny than scary.
This baby's hungry, you fat cow! What?
And everything that happens surrounding him is just... But I guess it might be because we've already seen this like 1,000 times.
Who are you?
Your worst fear. I am your demise.
Now, had this been the first ever exorcism film ever made, which would be the first of a whole lot, maybe it would have been more terrifying. But it's just...
Not.
Now, The Pope's Exorcist might get an A for effort, because it is nowhere near the worst exorcism film ever made. And again, Russell Crowe's performance is just... chef's kiss. And Alex Esso, of course, she was great too for what she had to work with. Even though they did write her as the generic mother in this scenario. It's kind of weird, like half of this movie is great, and the other half of this movie is just not quite. And a lot of what this movie has to offer, it just doesn't quite stick the landing. Kind of a shame too. Non male, ma non bene. The Pope's Exorcist gets a 5 out of 10. So how would you rank The Pope's Exorcist? Let me know down below. As always, your time is appreciated. Now catch you on the next one.